Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden. On this glorious sunny day, I'm sitting here at the terrace garden in the back of my property, not only enjoying the sunshine, but also all those blooms of a late spring season and the fragrance of the lilac filling the air. Initially, when I started this entire area of the garden, I wanted to create a cut flower garden, but as it happened, this is really more an extension to the upper garden. So whenever anything is in bloom, I just can't get in here and cut flowers back. So what I want to do today is change that and really create a cut flower garden in my brand new vegetable garden. So how I want to structure today's video is, first of all, I quickly want to tour you around and show you this area. Then I want to plant a little bit because some of those annuals that I want to put in the ground for cut flowers, they already look really fantastic. I also want to do a little bit of a sowing, so I have to see if I can already do some direct in-ground sowing or if I have to sow in pots. This is really depending on the space that I have. So I hope that you are excited to spend some time with me in the garden. This is a new kitchen garden at the back of the property and things are looking really cute. Besides this ugly yellow plastic meshing here, the reason for it is quite simple. Deer discovered this area and they were eating all the leaves of my strawberries. So there is a little bit of a protection for the time being. I also thought about buying another of these cages to put over the strawberries eventually, but the problem is they need to be pollinated. So I'm not 100% sure really what to do about this situation for the time being, because I already installed these wooden beams here because I ordered chicken wire. In the long run, I really want to fence this entire area in. It's not looking fantastic and it's not really according to my plan, because I thought it would be so nice if everything opens up and you have the view into the landscape and nothing blocks the view. But I mean, what can I do? The deer really comes every single day at the moment and it was already starting to eat some of my blooms. So that has to stop, obviously. What I did in the meantime is I planted some more dahlias. So 2 here and then some more here, 3. And in the back, the pot with pansies. Oh, this one still actually looks pretty all right. But look what happened here. The deer was eating almost all of my pansies. I was like, oh my, this entire garden area was off for some start. Not sure if it was a flying start. But what I want to focus on today already is prepared here a little bit, is supposed to happen here in this area. So you see 2 polytunnels, and the first one that is still going to stay there because I'm still growing a lot of plants in there, and I did some more veggie sowing, and I just love when those plants can stay in there and just at least germinate in there. But the second one is not really needed, and this is where I want to plant a little bit. So what I will do first is just take the polytunnel away. I think I'm going to really fold it together, put it back into its box, and then show you what I actually want to put in the ground here. A couple of plants are already in position and some others. Just peek inside, you can have a little sneak in here. Bells of Ireland, this is for example what I want to plant today. So really some wonderful things. And then I have my cold frames here where I have some other really fantastic plants just growing in. Cosmos, for example. Cosmos won't find their way into the cut flower garden though. And then I have some Rudbeckia. I really had a lot of Rudbeckia cherry brandy this year, perfect germination. So I think that I'm going to put 1 or 2 rows of those in the cut flower garden too. And here's my little box with all my seeds. So I'm also going to do some direct sowing, which I'm going to show you in a second. If you want to start your own cut flower garden, there are a couple of things that you want to pay attention to before you start this venture. The first thing is you want to find the right location for your cut flowers, because a lot of the things that you grow as cut flowers are annuals or tender plants like dahlias, for example, and all of those are sun lovers. So you really want to find an area of a garden which is preferably like mine, southwest facing. The lovely thing about this is I have the dead hedge here in the back, which doesn't always look beautiful. It's very good for wildlife, by the way, but it is a nice backdrop. So when wind comes, it kind of stops the wind here. And also it is a nice backdrop to reflect the heat. And I think that this is why already these first flowers here, or little plants, that already grew in so beautifully. The second thing that you want to pay attention to is the right soil, because dahlias, for example, they need lots of energy to produce these beautiful blooms and these big bushes really that they grow in, depending on the variety, of course. And annuals, other than perennials, they have a total different life cycle. So they need most of the time a good rich soil to feed all of the top growth, because they don't develop a good strong root system. The root system on annuals most of the time stays rather small, and they don't have big fleshy roots. Most often they have fibrous roots, because the life cycle of an annual goes that it wants to grow, it wants to produce a lot of blooms, and then it wants to go into seed to make sure that it has enough offspring. And this is also the reason why you want a dad hat, because once you allow your annuals to go into seed, then they think, I've done my job, I'm done and over here with what I ever wanted to do, so I can finally die back, because the next generation is ready because I've produced seed. But this is obviously not going to happen here, because when something comes to bloom, I want to come in with my secateurs and cut it back. Another thing is, if you're completely new to growing anything from seed, or if you want to create a cut flower garden, there are some very easy plants that you naturally want to try out fast, such as stock, for example. And this is what you already see here and what you also see in these containers here. My second recommendation would be snapdragons, because they are also easy. But with snapdragons, same as with these bells of Ireland, you have to be careful, because in order to make sure that your seed is going to germinate, normally they have to go through a cold spell. A lot of the seed suppliers, they prepare this seed, but if it's not really clear on the seed package, I would always recommend you either contact the seed supplier or sow your seeds during winter time. And this is what I did with these really beautiful bells of Ireland here. So I sow these seeds already in January, I suppose, and then I just put them in the cold frame, forgot about them, and look what I have right now. Really cute, beautiful plants that are crying out to be finally planted. The stock, this is a variety, and I hope I can read my own handwriting now. Bara Rosa. It is definitely a blush tone. So a lot of the flowers that I want to grow in here will be blush, purple, and a peachy or even orangey tone. But if it's orange, I always try to lean into an orange that really goes into the world of pink, so everything starts to look cohesive here. Bells of Ireland, they are green, so they definitely work wherever you want to put them. So let's just put some of these beautiful stalks that I potted up into the ground finally. Again, they all came from the same seed. So at one point my cold frames were full, and this is why I put 3 rows actually here, and then I put the polytunnel over it to protect the stalks, because they're annual, they're tender, and in April I was still having too much risk of frost during the night, and I want to make sure that the frost does not come in and kill those plants instantly, and it worked fairly well. There are some gaps in here where basically slugs and snails came in. But if you see this, this is perfect. Whenever you pot something up and you take it off your pot, you want to make sure that it looks exactly like this. So the roots look really nice, they are fibrous, but they hold the soil, so everything has rooted in extremely well. So what I do in this case, now where I put 2 plants in, I just break it gently in the middle like this, and still it looks really lovely. And now I've lofted up the entire soil in this area. I also came in with some hands of organic bone chips, because they break down to nitrogen. And now just plant it nice and level to how it was in its container. So I'm just going to put these 2 in here now, and then let's continue with the bells of Ireland. Stock, they are originally from the southwest of Europe, north of Africa, even Canary Islands. And I think they are 50 varieties in total, if I'm not wrong, and they come in a real big range of different colors, which is also why they're so interesting, I think, for a lot of you to grow. So if you don't like necessarily blush or pink, you'll definitely find your color in stock. Bells of Ireland look fantastic. Let's see how they will look when I pot them over. Whoop. I covered it with sand, by the way. They also look pretty well. At one point I ran out of pots, so in theory I should have probably tried to make sure that I pot them up, but I just didn't have enough pots. But I think it's still going to work. Look at that. Yes, they look really lovely. So again, all I have to do now, and maybe how many stock do I have? I think I need another row here, so probably bells of Ireland should go somewhere in here. And then, because I want to grow them as cut flowers, I'm going to put a lot of plants in here. I'm not really following to normal regimentations when you see like, oh, I don't know, 30 centimeters in between a plant. I just want to have a lot of them. I want that they are bushy. I want that they are ready to be cut back soon. So this is why I'm really going to make sure that I put a lot in here. I think it's going to look really well. What I need to do after planting, obviously, is to water everything in very, very well, which I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that I put all of these plants in here, and then we continue with some sowing. I still want to sow a little bit. Some of those plants I could have sown directly in the soil, especially now at this time of the year, because the soil is already lovely and warm, and that definitely triggers a germination process. If you have seeds that like to germinate in warm soil conditions, as I just told you. The things that I want to sow are, first of all, I have some really beautiful zinnias. This is Envy, a green one. Then I have Amaranth, the one with the red tassels. I had that 2 years ago and it produced beautiful cut flowers. More Stock. This is one that is night scented. You can read it. I think this is going to be really beautiful. And Sunflowers. This is a variety that I grew last year. One of my favorites is Astra Rose. Really interesting double flowers. Some of them are more yellow, some are more pink, but I thought that they would make really fine cut flowers. So how I want to do it is that I'm going to sow in different methods, because depending on your seed, there are different sowing methods recommended. And especially if you have fine seeds like Amaranth, I think direct sowing is possible, but sometimes it is really good to just use a seed tray such as this one to sow your seeds, because Amaranth seed is fairly small. It is one of the lighter seeds that also might blow away quite easily, and this is the reason why I think sowing it like this is nice, because then later on I could just prick them out and decide which plants are strong and which of these plants do I want to continue. So I already told you that warmth, like cold or warm climate, definitely pays in if you have anything that you want to grow from seeds, but also what light level does a seed require? And there, quite often, the size of a seed is a good indicator. So fine seeds does not want to be buried too much, while bigger seeds wants to be pushed in a little deeper into the soil. And that is quite simple, because light triggers the germination process of your seed. So light is defined into waves. So short-waved light is blue and long-waved light is red or dark red. And in this case, the finest seed, which sits on the surface and then is covered only with a thin layer of sand, that reacts to shorter waved light, which in this case is light red. And if you sow fine seed like Amaranth, what you don't want to do is that you just bung all of them in the seed tray. The temptation is always high, I know it, I did the same, but you really try to make sure that you sprinkle just a few of them quite evenly, which in itself is difficult to make it evenly, to be honest, believe that. Like that, so just sprinkle them on the surface, nice and light. And I think I already had too many seeds, to be honest. Did I? Which is the good thing with the Amaranth is that they are not black. They are kind of like a lighter color, so you always see what you're doing here. What you can do then is you could top dress it, just get the seed back here, with a little thin layer of gravel. But I never really get good fine gravel. I don't really know what the thing is, but I use sand. It works perfectly fine, and what the sand does, it weights the seeds down and it just covers the seed just a tiny bit, just to protect them, and then they can start to germinate. So the sand really works fairly well for me. I've tested it with another variety of Amaranth, a red one, which I already potted up. But Amaranth germinates very fast. Like last year, I think my last Amaranth I sowed probably in June, I believe, early June. And I had fantastic, fantastic results with those. So even if you're late in the season, you can always go with Amaranth. So that looks fantastic. This is how it is supposed to look like. I hope you can see it well. So all I need to do now is water it, and then I put a cloche on top of it to trigger the germination process. Then the next way of sowing is station sowing. And station sowing basically means that you push your seed straight into a station. So it could be like a single module, or in this case, like a bigger one, because as you might imagine, I'm kind of running out of space at one point. So what I do with the sunflowers, which are bigger seeds, I will push them in here, and I will always push 5 of them. So 1 in each corner and 1 in the middle. And the rule of thumb is, you can see that these are bigger, so I want to push them in. And now the question is, how deep do you want to push them in? I figure that sometimes seed suppliers just always write, push it in 2 centimeters, which seems to be the magic answer to whatever your seed is. But that is not really right, because, for example, a sweet pea seed is a lot bigger than the sunflower seed. So a sweet pea, yeah, 1.5 to 2 centimeters might be a good idea. But here, I would not push it so deep. So the rule of thumb is that you push it in double the depth to the height of the seed. So basically this is maybe like 6 millimeters in total, maybe even a little less, because otherwise the germination process really takes long. And what happens is that the smaller seed doesn't have enough energy to really push through to the surface, and at one point you think, oh, I didn't have germination. You might have had germination, but you just push the seeds in too deep into the container. You know what, this is just a lovely little start, but these are 15 sunflowers in total, and the problem with these sunflowers is they attract slugs and snails. So this is also why I don't want to direct sow them necessarily, where I think, like, if I do it in stations like this, I have the upper hand on slugs or snails. So what I do now is I'm going to continue sowing a little bit, then I water everything, and then I show you how the cut flower garden, or the start of my cut flower garden, looks now after the first planting. I place these pots with a fresh sown seed just in front of the polytunnel. So let me just give you a quick look at it. Everything is watered in. So here on the left, there are my sunflowers. Then on the right, I have 4 pots with stock, the violet night-scented variety, 8 pots with zinnias, and a seed tray with the amaranth. And it looks small, but there are a lot of seeds inside, and amaranth can grow to quite a big, sturdy plant. And speaking of, in here in the polytunnel, this is where I have all of my red amaranth. Beautiful. It is a magnet for slugs and snails though, so I always have to check every morning what I find underneath those pots, and let me tell you, there are big, big juicy slugs and snails sitting there. Then I have some courgette there, and on the other side some zinnias that germinated. There's a variety called Eldorado. They'll come to bloom in red. And then yesterday I was just sowing some broccoli, some cauliflower, some nasturtiums, so everything is looking cute in here, but this is looking cute too. I mean, look at that. 3 rows bells of island and 6 rows of stock, and I can't wait how it's going to look when it comes to bloom. Also how it connects the vegetable garden in my back now with this brand new border or area of the garden, because vegetable garden, I mean, I love the vegetable garden, but it's a utility space. You grow crops here. I also put some dahlias in here to make sure that there's something nice and floral to look at. But still, I really love this brand new area of the garden. And isn't it looking just cute? I think there's a really magical, whimsical quality already to it. And I just did another planting video in this area. So just in case if you missed it, go into my history and check it out, because I did a lot of videos in this entire area and really took you with me on this journey on how I developed this new part of the garden. That's it from me and my garden for today. I hope you had fun spending some time with me in the garden, and I can't wait to give you updates on how this entire area is progressing, especially when September time comes, or even August, and I can take you with me down there with my secateurs and really create a beautiful flower arrangement from all those dahlias and stock and bells of Ireland and all the other plants that I intend on putting into this entire area. The area in general should be perfect to grow any kind of fruit, vegetable, and also flowers, because it is very sun-filled. It is a little bit in a ditch, which means so far I never had to water it, because the water stays in the soil pretty well, especially that if there is rain, the additional water from the slope kind of just like washes down into that little ditch. So it was ideal for the moment, but that's also it for the moment. So I can just say thank you so much if you decide to subscribe to my channel, if you give me a thumbs up for today's video, and if you want to see more from me in my garden, you can just always visit my Instagram account. The link to it is just down below this video. I'll be happy if you say hi, and I'd be even more happy if I could welcome you next time around in my garden. Take care, guys. Bye.